A mother camel and her baby camel are talking one day, and the baby camel asks, "Mom, why have we got these huge three-toed feet?" The mother replies, "It's to enable us to trek across the soft sand of the desert without sinking." "And why do we have these long, heavy eyelashes?" "To keep the sand out of our eyes on the trips through the desert." And the baby continues asking, "And Mom, why have we got these big humps on our backs?" The mother, now a little impatient with the boy, replies, "They are there to help us store fat for our long treks across the desert so we can go without water for long periods." "Okay, I get it," says the baby camel. "We have huge feet to stop us sinking, long eyelashes to keep the sand from our eyes, and humps to store our food. Then, Mom, why the heck are we here in the zoo?" You see, modern life sometimes makes one feel like a camel in a zoo. And like camels in a zoo, we need sometimes to go into the desert in order to discover who we truly are. Lent invites us to enter into this kind of desert experience. Let's forget about camels and speak about us human beings. Where and when are we really at home? Is it in a zoo? Is it in the water? Is it in the desert? Where are we at home? Let us admit that when we reduce our existence to simply ensuring our comfort and have a constant supply of food and care, as well as admiration from the people around us, then we are very much like those camels in the zoo. It's a poor and miserable existence indeed. We seem to have everything but are in fact missing out on the one thing that gives us dignity and purpose: freedom. Freedom to be ourselves. Where and how can we find the freedom that we have been created for? Is it in a zoo? Is it underwater? Is it in a desert? The first reading, which recounts God's promise of peace after the deluge, reminds us how water, which is so essential for life, can become a horrible place of death. Humanity had been destroyed by the deluge, drowning them in the very waters that were supposed to give them life. Is not this a very apt way of saying how our wealth, our knowledge, booming economies, the so-called progress are enslaving us and sucking life out of us? In today's gospel, on the other hand, we see Jesus retreating into the desert, that place without water, the place associated with death and dryness, where nothing, nobody can survive. It is to this desert that Jesus goes, driven by the Spirit, among wild beasts and angels to serve him. It is here that he is to prepare himself to take the first steps that would lead to his death, followed by the resurrection. There is no way of discovering the freedom to live the life we have been created for, if not by facing the angels and the demons that inhabit us, and clearly distinguish between them. If we refuse to face them, the superabundant waters of life, our super comforts will kill us. If we courageously face them, the painful dryness of the desert will see flowers and life sprouting anew. The question is, how can we learn to distinguish between demons and angels? How often evil and death take the appearance of saving angels? Let me just mention a few examples. Killing the weak and vulnerable to eliminate the pains of life. This killing becomes an act of mercy, the angel of mercy, which kills the weak. Freedom of choice becomes the license to satisfy our own needs, our pleasures, at the expense of the others. Selfishness is painted as dignity and self determination. Pleasure, it is mistaken for peace and joy. Our own rights become excellent excuses to trample on the other people's rights. Dignity is reserved for the powerful who climb to the top of the heap at the expense of the weak who are at the bottom of the heap. Is not this all happening right in front of our eyes? Or are our eyes blinded by the sandstorm of the desert? Is not this reducing our societies into killing fields where the dignity and sacredness of life, especially human life, is being sacrificed for the sake of comfort, progress, pleasure? Is not this literally causing the desertification of the planet and of our societies? Yes, our rivers are drying up, our forests are being cut down, our air and water is polluted, our climate is being turned from friend to enemy, our morality is becoming a matter of personal convenience. Corruption has become the normal way of doing business, and freedom has been transformed into anarchy. Isn't this the desert that Jesus goes to so that he can face the demons and where he will be served by angels? He came to show us how to distinguish between demons and angels, between what is indeed good and what is actually bad, in spite of the beautiful appearance. What gives real life, what destroys it. He came to remind us how, like the camels of the story, we have been created not to live in a zoo, even if it is a comfortable one, but we have been created to cross the harsh deserts of our earthly life to reach the glorious paradise of true freedom in God. He gave us huge three-toed feet so that each one of our steps will be strongly planted in faith, in hope, in charity. With such feet, we can travel far, one step at a time, like the camel in the desert, slowly but surely, without sinking in the shifty sands of this world, towards God's own life, who is the beginning and end of our journey. He gave us heavy eyelashes to protect us from the blinding sand of the illusions of earthly pleasures and values. If we remain clear sighted and focused on the person of Jesus, then we'll see that he has crossed that desert before us. So we will never lose the way because Jesus is the way. He gave us big humps on our backs to store what we need to nourish us along the way. Our humps will also help us to carry with Jesus the heavy loads and crosses of life. It's only at the end of the journey that we will discover that Jesus had been actually carrying those crosses with and for us. Then, like Noah and the ark, we shall see a marvelous rainbow rise over the horizon after the most terrifying of storms, announcing to us the peace that we long for. It will be the sign of God's loving covenant with us, His children. We will finally understand how in Jesus our God is a faithful and saving God. Then we can break free from the comfortable but horrible prison, which is the zoo that enslaves and robs us of our true freedom. Then we will venture out into the harsh desert of life. And there we will discover that there are angels who are waiting to serve us. May I wish you a good and holy Lent, and may God bless you. Thank you.